Hello and welcome. This is from the CBN. We bring to you weekly reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, events, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. I am Misi Dada. Nigeria is still a predominantly import-dependent economy despite decades of efforts towards diversification, backward integration, and import substitution. The import dependence is made worse by a monocultural product, crude oil, which accounts for 89% of total foreign exchange earned by the country, as well as half of government revenues. At a recent CBN seminar for finance correspondents and business editors held simultaneously in Lagos and Abuja with the theme Policy Options for Economic Diversification, Thinking Outside the Crude Oil Box, economists spoke on unlocking opportunities in the non-oil sector and navigating the monoproduct economy. In this episode, we bring to you more excerpts of their paper presentations. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.
North, South, East or West, male or female, old school or millennial, rural or urban, the Naira is the same, and so is the e-Naira. The e-Naira is a legal tender issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So, let's embrace it. The e-Naira will foster financial inclusion, improve access to credit, facilitate cross-border remittances, and it's easier to transfer. E-Naira, same Naira, more possibilities. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN.
Welcome back. Dr. Ozomena Nnaji is the Director, CBN Trade and Exchange Department, presenting on the topic Navigating the Monoproduct Economy at the 33rd Seminar for Finance Correspondents and Business Editors last Saturday in August, said that the overbearing impact of the oil sector on the economy has exposed the country to external shocks whenever there are crude oil price changes. And in order to insulate the economy from the shocks and forex shortages, there is the need to develop new strategies aimed at earning more stable and sustainable inflows of forex through diversification of the non-oil export sector. She highlighted the challenges to non-oil exports which must be taken care of. Here is more excerpt of our presentation.
The non-oil sector has a lot of challenges for export. One of it is poor industrialization support for export activities. Because we are overly focused on extractive industry, without the value chain expansion and poor infrastructure to support export processing and packaging, it is also impacting the value of product we put for export and whether they get accepted or not accepted in the international market. There's ineffective supply chain network, high freight costs in Nigeria, and people are not finding trading in Nigeria very easy. So we have to open up that process. There's also enormous paperwork and cumbersome port processes, but in the central bank with the customs, we're working on the single window. The single window is now 80% automated. Once it's 100% automation, we will have now less human-to-human contact in the export and import business, and that will make it much easier for the export process to work seamlessly and cut off all the middlemen that are involved in that process. I will talk about poor transportation network, resulting in high haulage costs and time. Absence of developed commodity exchange, but that also is changing. The central bank has taken the commodity exchange, and working a board has been set up to work with how do we, because some of the things that happen is that from farm to market, a percentage of farm produce are wasted. But if you have commodity exchange that can grade, receive this product, grade it, clean it, package it, store it in a conducive environment, then we'll have more of our agricultural commodities good for export and even good for home consumption, and less wastage. Lack of regulated framework for standardized and pricing of products and manufactured goods. There's and also a poor export network for services like human capital, entertainment. In some countries, they have a process of hiring capital labor or human capital. If you're a lawyer and you're going to be employed outside, work outside of the country has set down rules and prices of what you should pay their lawyers. We don't have it here. Even our movie and music industry, we don't have that. So that's some of the things that we should work on if we're to increase exports and work on our export earnings. Some of you have heard where our beans and our yams are returned. We also need to work on political relationship, because some of those yams that were returned will be shipped to Ghana and will be accepted for export in Ghana. Yeah? And also, if we work on the political aspect of political relationship, those kinds of things would not happen. And also, if we obey the laws, there was a time of people that exporting hibiscus, right? There's a drying level that you have to get. And we had, most of our hibiscus goes down to South America, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. And we had a point where they gave us the specification of how dry your hibiscus should be before it's imported. All the containers that went were good, except one container that half of it was dry to that standard. The other half wasn't. That condemned all the hibiscus coming from Nigeria because of one person's action. Inadequate fit-for-purpose financing framework for export. And this, which is why the central bank is involving itself in structuring finance for some of this export. We have also people that want to do mechanized farming and wanted a large space of land. There's some that are having issues with procuring those lands from state governments and even federal government. The impact of insecurity, especially on extractive industry, and even food supply, is also impacting. And inadequate fiscal support to promoting export, not as much as we would have liked it to be. So let me talk to you about what central bank is doing to support export. We have implemented various intervention and initiatives to promote non-oil exports, because we believe that non-oil export hold actually the economic potential to contribute both to employment and to wealth creation in this country. And this initiative of central bank is to bridge the gap, identified gap that is in the sector. And we have all this initiative, which all of you knows about, the RT 200, the 100 for 100 policy, the 200 billion SME fund, creative industry fund, the anchor borrower export facility, non-oil commodity expansion facility, non-oil forex rebate, which is the one that most people know about, and then dedicated non-oil export terminal, and then by the biannual conference. Is the rebate scheme that is mostly in the media, which is when exporter, if you export and you bring back the proceeds here and sell it in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, you get 65 naira for every dollar, or 35 naira if you sold that dollar for your company to use. On the dedicated non-oil exports terminal, a lot of conversation is going on here, where they are looking at different regions, Calabar Port, on a port, dry port in Ogun State, of just having dedicated terminal for export of goods and services. Ogun will serve the southeast, south area. One will serve the southeast, and they're also looking at Kano as a dry port, because we have even the commodity exchange in Kano currently. So those conversations are going on. State governments are being involved to invest in it, provide land, provide infrastructure, so that export can be seamless. The biannual annual non-oil export, we just have the first one I said in June. The next one is coming in end of November. You will get information about that. This second one, we're going to look at some of the problem identified in the first summit, what has been done to solve some of the issues, and what needs to be done to continue to improve the export experience, especially for non-oil commodities. On the non-commodity expansion facility, that's a facility that is available for anybody producing for export in the country. You can access that in our development finance department, just like any of those other incentives. And then value adding export facility also is a facility that can be accessed by any exporter that want to export. There are other measures where we're collaborating with other finance agencies and networks like Nexim BOI towards risk sharing and management. We're also working with implementing fiscal policy to promote extractive and processing activities like the export grant and the EDF program, tax incentive. Should we have a tax incentive for the company that exports a certain percentage or makes a certain percentage or a certain dollar value per year in the country? Should we have an extra tax incentive for them just to encourage others to improve their export capacity? We're also working on supporting capacity development and for exporters, promote technical exchange program for technology and knowledge transfer, anything. So we also have interagency cooperation towards enhancing export logistics, NEPC, NIPC, Shippers Council, Port Authority. We're working with all of them to see how we can improve export experience of exporters. So Central Bank is committed to trade facilitation in general, and we are doing all we can to make sure that we promote transparency and efficiency in the business environment, and also work with all stakeholders to achieve the desired goal of improving non-oil export. But the ability of the country to effectively manage its foreign reserves is largely influenced by the level of productivity the country has and the availability of forex we can muster. We don't print dollar, we only get it when we sell to others and they give us dollar. So the only way we can work on our exchange rate is if we earn more. We can only earn more when we export more.
Nigeria is a rich nation of green land, rich resources, countless crops and commodities sufficient to feed and provide a means of livelihood for her teeming population. Chin up, Nigeria, the giant of Africa.
Exciting times are here. We can be self-reliant and grow our economy if we work together to explore our potential. It takes a whole nation. Let us get involved. Buy Nigerian to grow Nigeria.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're watching From the CBN, a weekly program that brings to you reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, events, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. In another presentation at the recent CBN-sponsored seminar for finance correspondents and business editors simultaneously held in Lagos and Abuja last month end, Lead Consultant, Industry and Private Sector Development, ECOWAS Commission, Professor Ken Ife talked about economic diversification in the light of the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 and opportunities to grow the non-oil sectors. Here's the excerpt of his presentation.
Right, if we look at diversification agenda, now this is very important actually to see what is in the plan, in the National Development Plan for up to 2025. The Agenda 2050 is being worked on at the moment, and I know that in the next week or so I will have a comprehensive input into the entire document. So this is telling you what our targets. I happen to chair the National Working Group also on technical group on bioeconomy, digital economy, and science, technology, and innovation. So made some input in this. So let's see what we are doing, see what we are planning. We are looking to raise how much? 348 trillion naira by 2025. And who is going to bring that money? Government says, keep me out of it. I'm only going to deal with only 49. Between me and federal government and state government, so me federal will give 29. Federal, these ones are just what they are currently spending. So they kept out of it and then push the bulk to the private sector. So it's the private sector that is going to have go and find this money, 298 trillion. That is what it looks like. But I see somebody will say, what structure do we have to ensure that the confidence of the private sector would enable them to invest this order of money. Right, then let's take some sectors so that we can see what the thinking is on some sectors. Here, these are things we've set for ourselves. So we are looking at agriculture and food security because these are some of the sectors we are going to have to look at for the future. So we can see what we are saying, how do we reduce post-harvest losses? These are our target for 2025. Building a sustainable food production systems. Yeah, we know we have 42 million hectares to the cultivable land, and we want to see how much of it that we can. Then increase in agricultural export volume. Yes, that should be talking to the FT, RT, $200 billion. So we are thinking in that direction, but CBN has now brought us an instrument and target to help us shape our development potential in this. The female participation, of course, is on the front burner. We need to push that up as much as possible. And why not? Why not? Because according to Africa Union Malabo Declaration in 2014, it says that 80% of the food grown in Africa are grown by women. And then 80% of actual possession of raw food, gari and all that, is done by women. And if you go to the rural market, 80% of the marketing of it is still done by women. So I think we should be upping this kind of projection because those are the guys that are actually feeding us. Then you have national food security ranking and all that. We want to improve all those. So, and then increase private sector investment in that private sector. We want to get more 10%, and then self-reliance. Those are things we're wishing to do by 2025. And then integrated rural development, we also have targets that we want to see. Of course, some of these targets connect to social and socio-economic indicators. Remember, there are quite a few indicators. So some of these indicators you are going to see are the competitiveness index, that's the global competitiveness index, our ranking on those, our World Bank ease of doing business indicator, World Bank Human Capital Development Index. Then you have logistic performance index, enabling index. There's so many indices. But of course, in all these indices, Nigeria is in the 4th quartile. Not just Nigeria, Africa are in the 4th quartile. But so what you are going to see across some of these, except we are number 1 in happiness index, and I don't know what is it that makes us happy, but we are number 1 in global happiness index. I don't know whether we've gone to number 2. Okay, is that? Okay, we'll come to that. Question time. But anyway, I'm just mentioning all these indicators because you are going to see references to those indicators on the targets, the various targets. All right. Okay. Then for manufacturing and industrialization, this is very important. The manufacturing one. Now, what are we saying? That we are going to increase manufacturing output. We are going to increase manufacturing output by 13%. The baseline is 11.64%. We're going to increase it by 30%, and I don't think that's enough. But that's what we've got, being conservative. That is to increase the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP. I think currently what we have is just 8%. That's what we have now. But we'll have to see how it goes. But that is the target. But if you are only going to add 5%, it means that 5% may translate to about 6-7% extra on the industries. So pushing industries to about 23-24%. Still not enough. We need to add 10% more. So because we need to see industries around 35% for a sensible balance between agriculture and industry. But don't forget, America, only 4% are involved in agriculture, but they are ready to feed the world. I want to correct the impression that people have about the nature and context of CBN intervention in agriculture. Now, I'll try and make that. Whatever else follows, you have the material. In a million years, I tell you, if what is happening on inflation today, inflation in terms of prices, you see how diesel has gone up by almost 400%, and you see how what transport costs. If this happened on food, then we would have been buying a bag of rice about 70 to 100,000 naira. And if we didn't have this intervention, this forceful, orchestrated intervention from central bank on agriculture, I tell you, we would have been, it's not about importing food. There would have been more people dying of poverty and starvation in our country than the victims of conflict and COVID put together. And if you had relied on the Ministry of Agriculture, both state and federal, to deal with the size of this challenge and give us a rice pyramid in the midst of 12-point-something billion being spent on importing all kinds of food, you would have had to wait for a long time. That's why I said in a million years. But please bear in mind that it is not public money. I hear people say, oh, CBN has given 1 trillion to anchor farmers and they are not paying it. So they are talking as if some government money was taken and distributed, which political farmers do. But it's not. It's private sector money from private banks that are being dragged to go and lend it to these people, to these farmers. And then it's no question that they have not paid it, so they've gotten away. You can't get away. You can run, but you can't hide. Because the day CBN say, okay, all right, you know what? I want all my money back. They'll switch on the GSI with a global standing instruction and sweep all accounts. Even the one of the whoever sponsored you will be swept. I'm telling you, but you could do that. Now, but let me get to the kernel. The kernel is this: when what happened in 2017 happened, when what happened in 2017 happened, the question is this: because before that thing happened, though, CBN has been forcing the commercial banks to push credit to the private sector, and it was using all kinds of measures. He used, of course, part of open market operation played its own part, but he came to loan to deposit ratio. He pushed it up to the health. So we're at 30% already sitting with the bank as a CRR, and then they pushed them to 60 to 55, and then to 60, and then to 65, pushing money to the private sector. But of course, when it got more than just that, you know, say, look, guys, I want us to go into CBN. But the first question is this: how do you de-risk agriculture? That's the first question the CEOs ask. Okay, nice, sir. set it up, $500 million by CBN, you use this to the risk up to 8%. It's not enough. How do I know my customers? Oh, okay. You set up BVN. They said, but how about obligor now? How much can I give the man? If the man runs away, at least I won't commit suicide. Okay, 1 man, 1 hectare, 1 farmer, 1 hectare. So that they're actually borrowing 200 to 400,000. So it's not, you're not going to ditch yourself. Okay, so that's fine. Reduce the quantity. But how are we sure that even if we give it and we sing the land and the crop, the man runs away with the money, he gives the crop? GSI now came in. That's global standing structure. They have to go and get a legal backing for that. That's why I said to you, they can talk anything they like. Prime anchors are the private businesses that are actually doing, over 90% are paid back.
That's all from the CBN this week. Report on resolved banking issues to the CBN Consumer Protection Department using the email address cpd@cbn.gov.ng. Attach relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center on the phone line +234 700 2255 226. Local rates may apply. Send your inquiries and comments to the dedicated email address from the CBN@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and to watch uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I am William Misi Dada. Stay safe and bye for now.